Okay, just arrived at Cooter's garage, and this is what I see. We got a Dana 30 front axle right there off a Wild Bill's rig, and then there's the 44 in the back right there. Very nice. The boys were busy yesterday. So you can see the boys place the front axle underneath the Jeep just to kind of look at her. Wow. All right, these are the rear end hubs, the bearing and all of that. Bill's putting it on the end of his axles. And then there's a special spindle nut you can see that goes on, and we've got a special socket for that fits it. And we're just looking up the torque spec for it. So we're prepping that up so the tires can go on it. You can see the socket right there. Bill, these are being reused. They've been all taken apart, cleaned up nicely. And obviously his axle shafts are right over here. Mike said these are 35 spline. Mike was explaining the gaskets are in the end to seal it up, and the oil travels down the axle tube and then lubricates these bearings on the hub. Okay, Bill's got one side done. He's setting up the other one.
This goes on amazingly. There's a lot of turns. You wouldn't think there are.
Yeah. And what did he say the torque spec was on it?
You go to 60 and then you back it off 7 clicks.
7 clicks, okay.
So I can just feel the spline, the end of the splines, and then she'll slide in.
Oh, okay. So it's the right side right there.
Yep. I mean, it's already in the splines
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah, so that pinion should be turning.
Well, the pinion, but probably the other axle's turning.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, this one's probably not
This
engaged.
one's not in there.
Yeah, there we go.
Sometimes you have to push down on it to lift it
Yep,
up a
there it
little.
is. All right, try it again, Mike. Yep. All right, so all that gets lubricated via the gear oil traveling down the axle tube. Wow.
Yeah, the gear lube will run all the way down,
down.
through the end of the spindle. It'll hit the end of the axle. It'll lubricate the wheel bearings.
So there we go. The big 40s are now on Bill's rear axle, so we can move this thing around without getting hurt. And we're gonna put that towards. Now we're gonna have to relocate some of your. Got enough room back there, Bill?
Hey, Bill, before you go too far, let's just put these. No. What, you got told you did a bolt?
So you can see we're just putting these bolts in to hold the axle shafts in. We'll be taking Bill's rear drive shaft completely off of the output flange coming out of the transfer case. 12 millimeter, 12-point drive shaft bolts. There they are, 4 of them. Looks like we can access them up high. And we're gonna do the same thing with the front drive shaft. There you go. Adams front drive shaft.
This is not bad.
Yep.
Yep.
Double carded U-joint.
1310, looks like.
Okay. And we see.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, bring it over here, Rick.
Yep.
Come over here. We'll take a quick measure on it.
All right. Yes. So what is it that you're measuring, and what are you looking for?
Well, we're just gonna kind of hold this up here. Yeah, it's a 13. Actually, a 1330 double cardan.
Okay. And
So I
this
got
is a
this-
special ruler by Spicer
This handy dandy Spicer
that allows
ruler.
you to
So
size up all the U-joints.
if you're measuring outside,
Wow, that's really nice.
you just hook it on
Yeah.
and you read it out. So see right there, it'll say 1330 or 1350.
And that's a 1350 right there. That's going on. And this piece right here is for the rear or the front, Mike?
This is for the rear. You want to see where it
That one's
goes?
for the rear, yep.
All right, let's go.
We
So
are.
this piece will be assembled onto the rear drive shaft, and then it bolts to the companion flange on the rear end.
There we go.
Being that this is a Ford Sterling 10.5 inch, it's the new style with the 37 spline pinion. Nobody makes a yoke for this yet, a bolt-on yoke. Even though this rear end's been out for 12 years. Cannot find a bolt-on yoke for it. So I'd hit the Spicer parts catalog.
So this will get attached to the U-joint on the rear drive shaft and then just bolt up to this flange.
Yep.
All right. And let's talk about this slip joint and how important it is to lubricate and what happens if you don't.
So what's going on here is we pulled this apart, and this joint is locked up solid.
So that's just a little
This is
collar.
a seal. It's been banged on a few rocks. I don't know if I'll be able to unscrew it, but there it goes. This here
Completely frozen, right?
should slide in and out. Obviously, as your suspension moves, this has to telescope. So we're gonna have to free that up. Now it could just be all dried up and gooky grease in there. We'll hit some penetrating oil, let it sit vertically. Hopefully we can get this apart and get it freed up. A couple rock dings on there.
So, I mean, kudos to Adams. I mean, this is just a maintenance thing that was missed, but you can see the kind of abuse that this front drive shaft has taken. And because Bill has a JK with a 3.5-inch lift, by him using this front Adams drive shaft, you'll notice when we start taking apart his exhaust, he did
that might be what that's from.
He did not need exhaust spacers.
Maybe skid plate or exhaust.
So go back in it, you'll see.
This ring right around here.
I would say exhaust
So
at full droop.
yeah, what we'll do here is we'll just
All right, so Bill just cut his exhaust. He's not sure what he's gonna do with the resonator and all of this crap. My guess is this will end up getting cut here, put a muffler up high and dump it, but we'll see. So now obviously the stock exhaust comes around. It's got a hanger on each side that's gonna be removed, and this big old trash can that sits underneath the JK is finally coming out of there. Also, we just removed the rear drive shaft. So you can see the rear drive shaft is gone and the front drive shaft. Okay, Bill's parts keep piling up in Cooter's garage.
And this time they're not caused by trail damage.
Yeah. Again, Bill now is just really getting carried away. He's removed his wide pipe. He's going to town with his... The scrap metal at Cooter's garage is really starting to add up.
I decided we're putting this Hemi in here, so.
Okay, so now we're putting a new motor in.
while it's here. While it's here, we'll just drop a Hemi in there.
Extra.
So I'm very much convinced that Bill has a oil filter cooler assembly leak on the top of his motor. And what no one can ever see, you see that heat shield where I'm shining the light right there? It's all wet and you can see motor oil just dripping right there. So that's where it kind of collects. It rolls down the bell housing, and as he drives, it just collects down here underneath the transmission. So that'll be a job that's going to be changed. And then Cooter just Monday, I think, took this out of a 3.2, is that correct?
Yeah, minivan.
Took it out of a Dodge Caravan, a little minivan. This is actually the second one that he's changed. He changed Lisa's Jeep in their 2015 JK as well. So what Mike is doing is he's going to apply some heat to this flange right here. And what I didn't realize is when you cut these studs, I was wondering how they got them out. Mike says that's just like a pressed nut in there. So he's going to heat it up and then use a punch and knock them out. And then
You could go with that one, Bill, and then you'll probably have to give you a smaller punch.
Then you can just use some regular nuts and bolts and bolt up the flange. Made it up.
Yeah, get this to the welding shop. They had a rebuild kit for the torch.
This is her default position right here.
Yeah.
You don't like what's going on? Right between the legs. No blood. There's no blood. Nothing happened.
So the one Mike heated right there, you can see he was able to use an air chisel and knock that out. So now he's got a nice big opening in the flange. He probably just needs to heat up the other one. And then this thing will be nutted and bolted when the time comes.
There on the ground. And what do you do with my t-shirt kits that have come with nuts?
Look at this. So Mike was absolutely right. You can see that it's knurled. This is pressed into the flange and then the bolt threads through. And of course you never can get them out. So the trick is to just cut them, separate the flange. He used an air chisel and basically just knocked that right out of the exhaust flange. So where I am is I'm on the driver's side underneath Bill's Jeep. Here's his front control arm mount on the frame. Here's the upper, here's the lower. These need to be completely cut off of the frame. And then he's got brake lines right here that need to be shifted up out of the way because the new bracketry goes right in here, utilizing these two bolts that hold the tranny cross member in, and it all sits up high. So he'll have his upper control arm mount here and his lower right here, and I'll show you that shortly. Little support underneath the transfer case.
Now, Bill, you can put this at whatever height you want.
The control arm mounts
You're probably gonna want
use the tranny cross member bolts as guides. So the mount will go over these two bolts and they have nuts, and then the thing fits up nice in here. We also took the time to, these are the brake lines for the rear. We loosened all of this up and we started rebending and trying to get those brake lines up high to the tub because the bracketry that goes in here is quite large.
Yeah, we're gonna have to probably move this lift
Yes,
arm.
it's definitely in the way, yep. Yeah, that's what's hurting you, then you'd be in place. Got it! Oh, you lucked out, wow. Upper and lower front control arm mounts in this huge 1/4-inch steel assembly right here.
Is this the plate or is it the other one?
What's that plate for?
Might be that one.
So Bill's cutting the stock mounts. He started on the lower, on the passenger side. All right, we're underneath Creeper. Missing some components. So what Mike did, you can see he's got the bearing caps in. You can see the axle shafts are in. So we could put the tires on the Creeper and get it off the lift to make room for Bill's rig. So the Creeper's sitting here waiting for some parts. New locker coming.
I'll get the screw jack and move
Bill you can see that Bill is removing that lower control arm out, trying to get the weld separated from the frame. It's going pretty well, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a lot of hard work. Okay, you can see where Bill is at. You can see one mount.
You're tall. Bill's like
So this piece of hardware from Krawler is the lower control arm mount right here and the upper. So Bill is removing all of the old existing, and he also has...
Sorry.
It's okay. Wow, you did a great job on that. That came out perfect. Jeez, good job. Getting rid of the ridiculous heat shield right here does not need to be there. New lower mount. Notice the thickness. Just going to take the opportunity. What we did is we removed Bill's passenger side rock rail. We'll be removing the driver's side as well. And you can see it's held on. There's studs on the body mounts. Where the body mount goes, there's studs that hang down. And his rockers utilize those two bolts basically all the way across, 6 bolts all the way across. So we need to get that out of the way because these need to be cut. We got to cut and open this up like so and down. This upper control arm for the rear needs to go, this bracket, as well as this bracket. And that's where we are. Okay, Bill's rockers, both driver's side and passenger side, are off. That's where they were mounted on these studs right here. This gives us room to get in here and remove the upper, rear, lower control arm, as well as the bottom bracket. So these got to completely go. And then we can start lining up the new lower control arm brackets. Bill is going with a 3-link in the rear. So he has what's called a saddle bracket. Here's his evap canister. He has a saddle bracket that's going to mount right up in here, and one control arm will come off to the center of the truss on Bill's rear axle right there.
Light for a second,
Actually,
please.
we could probably put that wrapping back on those lines on top. There is enough room.
Well, we're gonna have to bend those lines out. I wanna get them tucked between the body and the frame. See how the bottom of the frame's gotta be smoothed out with the flap wheel
Okay,
for sanding and welding? And then also this,
cross member?
we can't weld to the cross member, because then you won't be able to remove it.
Oh, right.
All right, you can see we're getting this rock crawler upper and lower front control arm bracket in position. You can see it uses the existing bolts that go through the tranny cross member as a guide, and then we're clamping it tight for welding purposes. All the metal has been cleaned, so we're just trying to get that set up so Mike can start doing some tacking here. Mike is tacking right now.
Those nuts down.
All right, you can see that the passenger side control arm bracket, both upper and lower, contained in the one bracket is clamped in position. Mike will be tacking those. Bill's control arms, front uppers, front lowers, extremely heavy, high quality, greasable. Sometimes it's good to just take a look at the vehicle up on the lift. This is day 2 of the vehicle on the lift. Day 1 was pretty much strip out the front and rear axles. Day 2 has been start removing the stock control arm mounts in the front, as well as get the rock crawler front and lower mounts not only tacked in position, but welded into position for the new control arm. So a lot of bull work today, but it's coming along. Oh, Bill, put those cheaters on.
I'm putting the wrong side in.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a problem. So there's one control arm just hanging there. You can see
Now,
how
the bottoms
nice,
are straight, huh?
how nice. No, they got to bend. They just bend downward.
Oh, okay.
So you can just see how nice it pivots in there, completely all recessed, out of harm's way.
Careful, that thing weighs about 1,000
You ain't
pounds.
kidding. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, so both lower control arms are, you got the nuts and bolts through, they're just hanging out of the way. But in order to put the tops in, the uppers, we have to remove that stock upper control arm mount. So Bill's getting ready to do some cutting and get rid of that thing.
Let's go over to the...
Kind of a big moment here. The 4 control arms are hanging, the bolts are in, and we've positioned the 1-ton axle
What, are these the bushings in there?
Yeah,
underneath the front of the Jeep.
So they gave us nuts for that.
Yes, they gave us
But
bolts
I
and
have
nuts for
other
the
ones
uppers.
too. And those, I would say, Rick, we'll let those go along the floor and slide under. And we'll get those on secondary,
Okay, so you're gonna start with the uppers.
I think.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to,
Watch your head.
We're gonna have to go forward a little bit.
okay.
Getting a little tight under here. Getting a little tight.
The axle's gonna have to go
Over?
towards the wall.
Wow,
Towards
not
the
bad.
wall?
Towards
Not
the,
bad.
Yeah, towards over there, towards the creek.
Right.
Well, don't forget that those control arms should move in and out a little bit, left and right too.
Well, all right, so you wanna,
Yeah, there you go. I think you're gonna be okay.
All right.
yeah, okay, thanks.
There's a washer.
That's all right, don't worry about that.
Wow.
Somebody's gonna have to go under and push those.
I will. When the time comes, let
Come
me
on
know.
down, Bill.
Get those.
Don't get pinched in.
Yeah, and then just watch your shocks. You're
Don't
gonna.
get pinched in between the tire and the
Are
front.
you throwing shock bolts through too?
Maybe if we get that.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Oh,
A little bit more, good.
Wow, outstanding.
those lower links. Come down a little bit more.
Very nice. Yeah.
Stop.
Good.
How are those lower links though?
Yeah, they're 2 inches off the ground. I can get under there and move them forward. If you need to come down lower, I got this one.
Yep, come on down a hair.
Come down a little more, Bill.
2 inches. And
Good.
stop.
Okay.
All right, mine's gotta be tipped back.
Nice. So we're catching the bolts for the uppers, then we got the lower bolts to catch, and then
Get yours in, Colin.
probably
I'll,
the shocks as well. And then the axle would basically be loosely attached to the front of the Jeep. Pretty productive day.
Hold on, this turns.
Here.
Did you use the mallet?
No.
Then I'm not using the mallet.
Oh.
Little father and son competition going on here. Colin said to hell with the mallet.
Really?
All right,
You wanna go like that?
all right.
Trying to get another one out of them.
All right, so here we are, we're using a come along. So what we're trying to do to get the control arms to line up is we gotta pull this axle passenger side to line things up. Kind of tricky, it can be done though.
Let's put that up on the tire so it's not underneath. No, it's not gonna reach down. We got more, just, there you go. Just put this in. He's got it. But watch the lift, now you're gonna flip, there's a lever there, so one way, watch the lift.
Taking some weight off the
All right,
axle.
Kyle, go ahead.
So now
You've already gone some.
Now the come along can move the axle over.
There you go.
Oh yeah, you're moving it. Nice.
Okay.
Now we're getting
Somebody
some
eyeball
movement.
that sucker.
All right.
Try tapping on it with the.
Angle's wrong on this.
Oh yeah. Go. Tell it. There you go.
Can you roll that wheel forward?
Which one?
No, I'm turning.
Once you get that freaking thing in that cup, which you're so close.
Here, use the
Yeah.
hammer to kind
Yeah.
of.
Here, let me take some weight off for you. Yes.
There it is.
All right.
Watch this.
Yeah. All right. Now you can make your adjustments. It needs to go inboard. Yep.
Here, I can use. What you want? Bolt head on the outside or the inside?
Well, we gotta use this thing, I think.
Well,
Not even close.
the bolt's not gonna go from the inside. It's gotta go this way.
You get the right idea, Bill. That's what you need to do. You need to roll it that way.
Yeah, it's gotta go in.
Yeah. Almost.
Keep going.
Yeah. Almost. Right there.
You gotta go up or down?
All right. Right there.
All right,
Should be
right there. I'm at the hole. All right, keep wiggling it. There it is. It's through.
Right.
It's through.
Which hole?
All right, control arm bolts
Goes
are
in between
through.
those tabs above the
So now we're
control arm.
trying to drop the lift a little bit
Go ahead down a little, Bill.
in order to get the shocks in position. All right, so what we're trying to do is just the tolerances of getting that shock
Yeah, maybe.
in there very tight. So we're considering maybe just hitting it with the flap wheel. We just need to get that shock bushing down into the axle mount. A little bit of grinding. All right, this is a wrap for Cooter's Garage for this guy anyway, for episode 9, I think. Wow. Wild Bill's 1-ton axles.
Back it up a little.
All right. Till the next time.
Yeah.
Econ Jeeper out.
All righty, here we go. Bill's up on the lift. 40-inch tires, 8-lug wheels on a JK. Oh, 1-ton axle swap. So we managed to get the rock crawler front end in today. Suspension links are all on. It looks good. Looks good under there. Sorry I don't have a light here. It might be a little dark. Let's see. Stand by. I have to have a light right here. So you can see, one thing you can now see that it's together up on the lift. That upper link basically goes where the exhaust pipe would come down. So it's gonna need a little tricky exhaust work to get the two pipes in and through there. Drive shaft fits, I test fit it. Excuse me, must be some Hastings dust in here. Test fit the drive shaft, I got the slip joint to free up. I'm gonna have to get a conversion joint or a 1350 joint and slip joint for the front. The drive shaft's a touch long to be anyway, so I'm gonna see if I can get a shorter slip yoke that takes a 1350 joint. But other than that, everything is buttoned up. Everything fit really nice on the front end. He's got an adjustable track bar that's gonna go on it. And then we have to dial in the steering, sway bar end links, brake lines, that type of thing. Here you can see the sway bar, possible sway bar ends that we're going to use. I'm not sure yet. He's got some disconnectable links. We'd like to keep it as a disconnectable sway bar because it's not an anti-rock or something like that. It's a factory sway bar. It's kind of stiff. Here's the slip yoke, 1330 U-joint. It's got a long spline on here. So I may see if I can get one. They make these in different lengths. If I can get one that's an inch shorter, and I may even chop an inch off of here, rather than have to cut any tubing out. This is not the right size U-joint for the front end anyway. So I'll take a look at that. But that's it. Next week, start the back end. Another view of the underside. You can see here, shocks are holding this up, so there's plenty of clearance now between shock bracket. All the bolts, of course, we left them all loose. Everything's got to be torqued and double checked, but it's looking good. Wild Bill hopefully be back on the trail in a few weeks.